Is it D-Day tomorrow? Canada, the 51st state? Folks, I got a lot to go through, a lot of things I've kept kind of to myself to absorb. It's been hard on the soul, hard on my spirit here in Canada. And I want to go through things I haven't gone through that's occurred in this last week, actually, since the election. A lot of things I haven't released really or talked about yet because I took the time to eat that. Now, I fly out. I'm at Edmonton International Airport. I leave in an hour. Said goodbye to my girls. Didn't get to see really any friends. One childhood friend. I think we spent a total of an hour together. And of course, I had already done 3 days in the hospital. Just want to let everybody know my daughter Sierra is doing extremely well, so I feel good about leaving. She's well on her way. She's got a long road of recovery. She'll be back in school. What it looks like to be around the 13th, so she should be good for school. She's still wired shut. She had major reconstructive surgery. She's had a lot of surgery since she was a child, and it's cost a lot. Other things in life have cost a lot. I know a lot of Canadians know what it's like when you have these issues and how hard it is, and then you get upset with people because people can't relate, especially when they've never had any of these kind of issues where you don't have any health care on a whole bunch of fronts. It's all out of pocket. It's all on you, and it's your child's quality of life. And of course, what kind of parent wouldn't pay? Now, I know in the United States this is a reality for many Americans, but Canadians take for granted. They think that somehow healthcare is free, and sure, if your income's really low or you have other reasons for it, but for working folks, there's a lot of avenues in health that Canada doesn't cover at all. It's not part of the mainstream system. So you either live with pain and suffering and you learn to live with it, or you don't, and then you got to dig deep in with yourself. Now, I'm not whining. I did that. I made my choice. I did that for my daughter. Wasn't sure I'd work out. It looks like everybody, it really worked out really well for her, and I'm glad for that. So far, everything looks great. She's going to be just fine. But what isn't fine is Canada and Canadians. Canadians are not fine, not by a massive majority, are not fine. Now, there's things I've kept, and I'm probably not going in order that's listed in this video, because I'm just letting it come out of me naturally. Things that have drained my soul, really somewhat disturbed me at a spiritual level. My mind is very strong. My body's very strong. I've been at the gym. I've lost a lot of weight. I've quit drinking. I'm not smoking anymore. I'm doing a lot for myself and the physical and mental reality, and that's really great. But what's not great is my spiritual, and it's Canada. It's the people of Canada who are sick that are making me sick. It's like being in a prison, and I've been to prison, when you don't belong there, and you're not supposed to be there, but that's just the way life goes sometimes, and I've gone through that, and you had to do time or spend time even though you weren't in the wrong, and it really devastates your life, let alone being in that situation. Well, that's how I'm feeling, that I can equate it to these days in Canada. And I'm going to roll back the week here to the election, and I participated in Oshawa, Ontario. I did what's called a voucher ballot, and just so everybody knows, there is no process in the United States of America federally or any one of the 50 states. Now, some Americans will say, oh yes, you can get a ballot without an ID in these 14 states. I've been through all of them. I've read through all of them, and there is 14 states of the Union that have a limited capacity affidavit process that you go through. But if you do what I did in the vouching system, what many Canadians do in the vouching system here in Canada, you can be prosecuted for that in the United States. That's why they have an affidavit system. Nobody vouches for you. You go in without ID, but you have to provide other means, and then you showcase who you are, your birth date, your registry, everything, and you give an affidavit, you give yourself. And if you're found to be in fraud, you're going to jail. That's how it works in those 14 states that don't mandate absolute voting ID, pictorial legal ID requirements. Always been that way, always will be. In the United States, they take elections very serious. It's about freedom, it's about responsibility and accountability at the individual level. Now, this does not exist anywhere in the Canadian system. A lot of things don't exist in the Canadian system that are absolute of real functioning democracies. Now, USA is not a democratic nation, but the Founding Fathers and the Constitution federally and absolutely all the 50 states have put in checks and balances to create pure democratic institutions inside that we the people republic, meaning they know when democracy is important, they know when democracy can be used as a weapon. They knew that. They had enough sense in those years, in those days, enough literacy and understanding, probably more mainstream knowledge then. And this is 140 years of British subjects up to the War of Independence. Those pre-Americans, British subjects in America in those 13 colonies, had enough sense that by the time they reached independence, they were well on their way for checks and balances that had already been done in some of the colonies previously, previous to the War of Independence, its conclusion, and then leading up to the 1787 Constitution, where some of those 13, in fact, Massachusetts, its example was that foundation of bringing in democratic institutions into this We the People Republic system to protect the people from themselves, knowing when democracy works, knowing when it can be absolutely hijacked and usurped, where people shouldn't have this power in any kind of majority, needs to be protected through a check and balance system. Don't put it to the people, because those evildoers can use it to usurp their beautiful system. And I know what I'm saying here doesn't find itself well with Canadians. How would they? They've never had any of those systems constitutionally, or any education system, none whatsoever. The idea of checks and balances doesn't exist. So I'm going to tell you what I learned in Ontario. Right there in at least Oshawa, Ontario, large swaths are Liberal. Large swaths are Liberal.
Attention please, Air Canada Flight 178, services to Toronto is paging a follow-up passenger. Beijing, Hassan, Kadar, Hoche. If it's a growing area,
I'm probably the only real Canadian on this flight, by the way. I'm downstairs. That was my flight announcement. You know, if I shot my live upstairs without this Buffalo, and there's no flights down here tonight, I'm just sitting down here before I go up, because I am absolutely the only Canadian in the room. Guaranteed. I'm the only born Canadian in the room. That's another thing. But I'm going to tell you about what happened in Ontario, what I witnessed, what I participated in, what I showcased to all of you, and what I didn't. And what's got me so perplexed, so broken spiritually, that started it. Never mind the rest of it, coming back to Alberta, because it's all one thing after another at a high pace. And of course, my daughter. But I want to start with the elections, what I haven't told everybody. What I witnessed with my own eyes, where I have witnesses from other provinces, Atlantic provinces. So a friend of mine I work with, who was with me that day, and of course my friend Jonathan LaBelle, who was on here, and it's late for him in Ontario. So I did the voucher balloting. Never even heard of that before until Ontario. I didn't think I was going to be able to vote, because I never got my registered ballot that I applied for, being out of province. Never got that. Never worked out. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to vote. Then all of a sudden, guys at work are telling me, hey, you can do a voucher ballot. Just find somebody to vouch for you. You can vote here as an Ontarian. I'm like, what? That's legal? Yeah, any registered voter can vouch for any stranger without any ID, no check and balance. Of course, I did that with Jonathan. I registered as Don Trump, and of course, I spoiled my ballot. Because it's fraud. It's fraud to vote in somebody else's election. But putting in a spoiled ballot that has no effect in a riding I don't live in, just to show the point, registering it with Donald Trump's name, Don Trump, that should show everything. That should have been red flagged right away, but the lady wasn't even from Canada. Had an accent. She's working for Elections Canada. As bad as all that is, as bad as compromising that I already showed all Canadians, I'm going to tell you what else. That it was Conservatives, mass majority that I've seen in a lot of Liberal ridings, because I drove through them. You can see all the polling stations. One from this Nova Scotian, and a group of people from Nova Scotia working in Ontario, some with me, were invited online to Ontario ridings to vote Conservative through voucher balloting. They had a line of volunteers, Conservatives, to change the election results in Oshawa ridings. Not the one I voted in, other ones. Now, maybe that did occur. As I watched and visually saw with these eyes, I saw the registered pages, and I saw the half back of the book of all the written in ones where I was written in, after they turned so many voucher pages till I wrote my name in. But as I drove back to work, as I went back to work, because you get your 3 hours off to vote, going through other ridings, and then I looked at my friend's riding. There was a Conservative woman holding up her Conservative sign, voucher balloting with that CPC candidate. The point of me telling you this is Conservatives, Liberals cheating, everyone cheating in that election. And I clearly saw stations after station. One was showcased on Facebook because it's common practice, at least in Ontario. No one bats an eye. Never seen the likes of that in my childhood. My parents from Alberta, I was talking to them about it. Never ever heard of that. Didn't even know it existed either. I don't know any Albertans who know that exists. Now, I'm sure this has been staged and brought together in big cities in Alberta, but I honestly had never even known that to be in existence or a reality, let alone such a horn of plenty for both Liberals and Conservatives that are well used to participating in this. Like I said, on the street, standing in front of the polling station with voucher ballot sign, volunteers for CPC and that particular Ontario candidate, with my own eyes after I did my voucher ballot in an Ontario riding. I show you the Trudeau School Liberal riding where I did that. But I wouldn't vote any party illegally made legal in Canada. And it's always been this way. This isn't new. That's the problem. This has been around for a very, very long time. It's been around so long, in fact, everyone's used to doing it. They're organized in groups. They even advertise in Facebook groups. So I'm not in those groups. How would I even know to look for it? But my buddy at work showed me that. An Atlantic Canadian showed me that. And he was there to vote for the Conservatives. Now, after listening to me, he chose not to. He didn't. He could have. I could have dropped him off at his polling station. He didn't want to do it after that, after talking. Didn't want to do it. This is something I haven't shared. And this was done in massive polling just in the city of Oshawa. A big city for Alberta. This is the size of Red Deer, Alberta. A rather small city comparatively in the GTA. You're talking about millions upon millions. Now, this goes from Ontario to Quebec. It's used to be very people are used to this practice. How are elections ever not compromised? Now, what you have to understand is this is more than 65% of Canadians below the 49th parallel live in these areas that participate in this. I'd never seen it before because there hasn't been an election that I wasn't at home in Alberta for. Never been out of province before during an election cycle. And there was one for the early election Trudeau called last time. I just didn't vote or participate. I didn't care to. But folks, this main election, that's what it was. And again, it was an early election on the back-to-back of another early election, and then before that early election, and then a scheduled election, but before that an early election. Now, we're getting into Conservatives. This is common practice now, not to have scheduled elections. USA, that is absolute. There are no early elections in the United States. There's no wartime cancelling of elections. None of that. This is also true for Russia too, by the way. And before you think that these aren't majors for democratic countries, like real democratic countries, it is, because people need scheduled elections. You need to know when a party is up for renewal, and you have lots of time to think about it, lots of time to be angry, meaning they can't shift their policies, right, when they're destroying you, and then just flip on a dime, hold an early election in a crisis, right, that they've created to get you to vote their way. Think about that. Think about the power as the party in power or other to force people a certain way because your record shows you shouldn't be back in power. Think about that. Fear the population in a short term to gain advantage over them voting style. Trump has taught you so much. He's not your enemy. He's not part of a cabal. He's not a globalist. He's not trying to do anything but set the world to a place it should be at. A free place where the people who are like the buffalo don't go extinct. Free people, that is. Free people. Most of the world is not free. Canadians are not free. I'm being attacked aggressively now since I've got my AI model, my statehood AI, from Facebook. Believe it or not, a beautiful system. Far outpaces Grok. Very concise, consistent. You can change it at will. It's adopted policies, mechanics related to the work I'm working on. I questioned it very well. It's a level up than Grok AI. And that's, pretty amazing. I'm very impressed with it. But it's brought on a tremendous amount of hate and again, attacked the spirit. So I was supposed to be, I'm going to tell you some stuff here, and I'm not a guy who preaches God. I try not to do that. I try to separate the two. My life, my spirituality is mine, but I got a spiritual issue right now. I got a strong body and mind. I got a weak spirit, and I just gave you a reason for that, Canadians, couple reasons. And then there's way more I could go through, way more. Actually, maybe I'm going to do that right now. Another issue I have is with Canadians and where we're going in the world of trade, where Canadians fall in resources that are everything of them that's not everything of America. It's not. And it's impossible for Canadians to move away from that narrative. It's completely and virtually impossible. Resources. I can talk to my parents, close friends, people who are very conservative-minded. Trump wants our resources. America just wants Alberta. And I listened to a podcast shown to me from Jonathan Bahai, sent to me, and I watched it. And that was all. They want our uranium from Saskatchewan. They want all our potash for fertilizer. They want Alberta's oil, natural gas. That's why we're going to be the 51st state. Trump wants it all. This is what he's trying to get to. He's just doing rhetoric with Canada. It's all about Alberta and Saskatchewan resources. These are going to fix America, make America great, blah, 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 blah. And nothing can be further from the truth when it comes to America. America has no problem with resources. America's biggest resource is the people, we the people. Canadians will never understand this because they're poisoned. The buffalo here behind me, that's Americans. Strong, proud, free roaming, free ranging. That's what they can muster. And the world's trying to make that go extinct. Canada is making that go extinct. And it's all on an idea that resources are everything, not people. You will never hear out of all these people, separatists, a lot of 51st staters. Now, I want to be clear here. Benjamin Ebley understands this very well. He preaches hard against all of it. He gets it as an American. He's just like, wow, you Canadians don't really get it. None of you get it. Now, all these people in Alberta and Saskatchewan are all of the Crown. They want to remold and rebuild the Crown. The idea of an elite system for an elite set of group of people based on resources and rewarding work, not creating individual power and prosperity amongst people, turning sheeple into buffalo. Even though they call themselves Buffalo Party, they call them all these things. It's like, how is that even remotely true? Listen to the words that spew out of your mouths. Americans go, these people are sick. In large majority, they find Canadians sick and institutionalized. Trump knows it. The Republicans know it very well. At the highest levels, they don't condemn Canadians for it. They just know that it's easy to deal with you, and it's going to be easy to crush you because you're very, very predictable. You think or you want to be a buffalo, but you're not. All of your narratives come from people who are wolves in sheep's clothing. Those are the wolves who are shepherding you. That's what they're doing. They don't want to change the premise of Canada or how Canada operates. They want to take that unto themselves and keep you subjugated in a smaller, tighter set of reins of control, a smaller pen. This big pen Canada is already bad enough because it's a pen. And now they want to make it even smaller in narratives. Narratives are never going to work out. Narratives that ignore humanity entirely. Not one of these folks have ever spoken to any of the First Peoples. None whatsoever. I'm bringing forward a process that's respected at the top levels of all American administrations. Even most of the Democrats get it. There is a portion that wants to run the Democrats. They're anti-it too. They're the real sick socialists and fascists, but they're not running the majority these days. Now, there's a lot of Americans in that group too. I won't say a lot. This is a minority set of Americans. But sadly, it's a majority of Canadians. Call themselves conservatives, liberals. They all share these thought processes. These Alberta separatists are all there. A lot of these supposed 51st staters are all there. All the mentality and thinking. I go around Alberta, there's nothing but Chinese cameras. 80,000 right on Chinese cameras all over Alberta. They've already changed it. Albertans are all happy with the idea of TMX and transferring everything to China, saying it's no big deal. In majority, it's no big deal for Canadians to sell out to all these countries who have zero freedom. They think that's a great idea. It's a good thing. That America's bad, Trump's bad, he's responsible for everything. He's the bad guy. Canada's very good. And that working with China and all these other third world dictatorships is great. That's where we should be selling our resources, because America isn't enough. The free world isn't enough. We need to expand beyond that for our crown's power and glory. And it doesn't matter how much is spent. People talk about equalization. Again, I'm going to tell you this. Danielle Smith is spending $79 billion this year on the Alberta budget for 4.9 million people. 4.9 million people. Florida, for you those who don't know, has a budget spending of $113 billion. Just about $33 billion more than Alberta, except there's a big problem. So about a third more than Alberta, Florida's spending for its budget on its people. The difference is Florida has 5 times, almost 6 times, it's almost 6 times the population. 5.9, almost 6 times the population than Alberta. With if you go by per capita, 1/3 the spending per person they're budgeted on. They have absolutely 1/8 the taxation level as Alberta. Please explain to me, Albertans, why you need monitoring Chinese cameras in every municipality from hamlet, village, town, absolutely all cities. Why you need 80,000 Chinese cameras. It's not a problem for any of you. It's not a problem at all. You don't even bat an eye. You need a tremendous amount of policing beyond any rate of America or most of the rest of Canada. Why you need such a tremendous police force. Why Premier Danielle Smith and her population needs that much personal security beyond all living American politicians at the federal level, meaning even those retired from politics or no longer serving, they get a security detail. They get the same deal as the Alberta sheriffs. That's in the United States of America. So why is it all living federal politicians and elected, Danielle Smith has more personal security, meaning Alberta sheriffs, than Secret Service in the United States of America per capita? Why? Why do you have that? Tell me how that isn't a police state. Why is it Alberta needs to transfer its resources now in a major to all of these countries that absolutely are against the United States fundamentally, are absolutely either a communist or military dictatorships? Why is that a pursuit of our resources to be sold? Why is America, the freest place in the world, not enough? Why having that as our best friend not enough? Why do we need to have all these routes of trade out to the Arctic for China to bring China into the Arctic? Let's be honest here. Only China will be the effectual reality of the Arctic, because it won't be the United States. They're already there, folks. They're already there. And it's certainly not to Russia. We know that. Russia's completely already there. In fact, more wide-ranging than the United States. It's Canada largely nothing in Arctic. What's called an ICC member. You have to be a country on the border of the Arctic Circle, meaning the Arctic Ocean, to be a member. I want people to understand this. Why is it Canada wants to have a Belt and Road Initiative from China, Beijing, to BC through Alberta, up to the Arctic now, to have access out to the Arctic? Why does China need to be in there? Why does China have to be Canada's access through the Arctic to secure its Arctic? Why does Canada, if you don't know right now, why does Canada's deals need to do that? How is that going to make Canada a better place? Please, somebody come forward from any party or any Canadian narrative. Explain to me how that makes Canada a more free and fair country, a more equal and opportunity-driven country. How is that transition make Canada better or the Arctic better? Right? How does that make Canada better? Please, somebody explain it to me. How is that prosperity and making Canada better by making communist countries or full-on military dictatorships stronger, make Canada a better country on the world stage? Bringing that into the Arctic, how does that make the world a better place? How does that make us prosper in the future? I'm asking. How does that make us prosper? How does having a massive immigration rate under Mark Carney right now today, and all your premiers, they're all signed on to it with Mark Carney as they would have been with Pierre Poilievre. If you haven't read it, please go on the government website. He was elected a week ago. You can now look at what I'm looking at, the immigration rates that are reduced by peanuts, fractions, and in fact, they expand temporary foreign workers, all of that, while reducing very minuscule permanent residency. We're still going to be way over 500,000 a year at the end of the day. So we haven't changed anything effectually. Please tell me how they're going to build the houses and why.
Final boarding call for Air Canada, Flight 178 to Toronto.
That's it for me, guys. Gotta go. Didn't finish. I gotta go. Bye now.